Hello and welcome. Get set for 30 amazing challenges that will test your understanding. Which of these is not a fruit? Apple, carrot, banana. The correct answer is carrot. Here's an interesting fact: carrots are vegetables, while apples and bananas are fruits. Which of these animals is a mammal? Crocodile, elephant, snake. The correct answer is elephant. Here's an interesting fact: elephants are mammals, while crocodiles and snakes are reptiles. Which object does not produce light? Sun, torch, mirror. The correct answer is mirror. Here's an interesting fact: the mirror only reflects light, it does not produce light. Which of these is not a mode of transport? Car, train, chair. The correct answer is chair. Here's an interesting fact: a chair is furniture, not a mode of transport. Which of these is not a type of rock? Granite, limestone, paper. The correct answer is paper. Here's an interesting fact: granite and limestone are rocks, while paper is man-made. Which is the odd number? 12, 18, 21. The correct answer is 21. Here's an interesting fact: 21 is odd, while 12 and 18 are even numbers. Which of these is not a planet? Mars, Venus, Moon. The correct answer is Moon. Here's an interesting fact: the Moon is a natural satellite, not a planet. Which of these is not a primary color? Red, blue, green. The correct answer is green. Here's an interesting fact: green is a secondary color made by mixing blue and yellow. Which is not a type of energy? Sound, heat, book. The correct answer is book. Here's an interesting fact: books do not produce energy, while sound and heat are forms of energy. Which is not a living thing? Tree, fish, rock. The correct answer is rock. Here's an interesting fact: rocks are non-living, while trees and fish are living things. Which is not a type of weather? Rain, cloud, street. The correct answer is street. Here's an interesting fact. Streets are not part of the weather, while rain and clouds are. Which of these is not a type of animal home? Nest, burrow, table. The correct answer is table. Here's an interesting fact. Tables are furniture, not animal homes. Which is not a type of tree? Oak, pine, plastic. The correct answer is plastic. Here's an interesting fact. Plastic is a material, not a tree type. Which of these is not a metal? Iron, gold, wood. The correct answer is wood. Here's an interesting fact. Wood is not a metal, while iron and gold are. Which is not a flying bird? Eagle, penguin, sparrow. The correct answer is penguin. Here's an interesting fact. Penguins cannot fly, while eagles and sparrows can. Which of these does not use electricity? Television, bicycle, laptop. The correct answer is bicycle. Here's an interesting fact. Bicycles work without electricity, while TVs and laptops need it. Which does not belong in the water? Fish, shark, tiger. The correct answer is tiger. Here's an interesting fact. Tigers live on land, while fish and sharks live in water. Which of these does not have 4 legs? Dog, cat, eagle. The correct answer is eagle. Here's an interesting fact. Eagles have 2 legs and wings, while dogs and cats have 4 legs. Which is not a mode of communication? Email, television, sandwich. The correct answer is sandwich. Here's an interesting fact. Sandwiches are food, not a means of communication. Which of these is not an insect? Ant, butterfly, frog. The correct answer is frog. Here's an interesting fact. Frogs are amphibians, while ants and butterflies are insects. Which of these is not a type of book? Fiction, dictionary, pencil. The correct answer is pencil. Here's an interesting fact. A pencil is a tool, not a type of book. Which does not fit in the group? Rose, Lily. Spoon. The correct answer is spoon. Here's an interesting fact: rose and lily are flowers, while a spoon is cutlery. Which of these does not use fuel? Car, bus, bicycle. The correct answer is bicycle. Here's an interesting fact: bicycles do not use fuel, while cars and buses do. Which of these is not a month? January, Saturday, December. The correct answer is Saturday. Here's an interesting fact: Saturday is a day, not a month. Which of these is not a bird? Parrot, owl, bat. The correct answer is bat. Here's an interesting fact: bats are mammals, while parrots and owls are birds. Which of these is not a musical instrument? Drum, violin, table. The correct answer is table. Here's an interesting fact: tables are furniture, not musical instruments. Which of these is not a part of the human body? Liver, brain, keyboard. The correct answer is keyboard. Here's an interesting fact: a keyboard is a computer part, not a body part. Which is not a type of flower? Tulip, sunflower, door. The correct answer is door. Here's an interesting fact: a door is an object, not a flower. Which does not belong to the group? Milk, juice, soap. The correct answer is soap. Here's an interesting fact: milk and juice are drinks, but soap is not. Which of these is not a means of transport? Bike, car, shoes. The correct answer is shoes. Here's an interesting fact: shoes are for walking, not a transport method. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Stay tuned for more exciting content, and we'll catch you in the next one.